Hello everyone, and welcome to another Throne and Liberty video. My name's Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, but if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, you magnificent, sexy beast you. And that's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free, awkward, and maybe a little bit inappropriate comments when you hit that subscribe button. Now, if you guys are actually brand new, I've been breaking Throne and Liberty news over the course of 2023. Thankfully, I have some awesome contacts who like to share with me official information or not so official information just yet, and that's what we're going to be doing here again today. Now, all my contacts are secret because I want to keep them safe, and they keep feeding me with wonderful information and news that I can share with you. Now, there's going to be no spoilers, and in fact, if anybody ever asks me to keep things secret until there's an official release, I always respect all of those terms. I respect your privacy, I respect your terms, and hopefully you guys enjoy the information in today's video. Because you guys asked a couple of questions, I thought I'd take some time today to give you guys these answers. There's a lot to explore, so let's go ahead and dive right in. The bulk of this video, we're going to be talking about auto battle. Could bots make it worse? A couple things. Obviously, the MMORPG subreddit is not necessarily very happy, but that's also that subreddit. So them being dissatisfied with an MMO is kind of the thing that they do, and that can't be fixed, really. So I'm not going to try, but we're going to have some fun. If any of you guys want to be freaking legends, be sure to share my stuff over on Reddit. I'm sure it's going to generate a lot of discussion, but I'll leave it up to you. First things first, remember this is still an alpha. Anything here that I share with you is actually subject to change. The Korean beta is just less than 2 weeks away from the time of this recording. So we're going to see more public details very, very soon. So hopefully you guys keep it locked here to the channel if you guys want more Throne and Liberty news in your feed. But I also talk a lot about other video games. So check out the channel page and see if there's anything that I make that you might enjoy. Now, on that note, I kind of briefly talked about how you level in the last video. So I wanted to kind of clarify, because some of you guys are asking, but the main way to gain experience in this game is actually through a system called contracts. If you guys don't remember, in the last video, you gain player experience, like you have a level, and then you have weapon mastery. And these are two separate systems that you can play around with. In this case, the main way to level, to gain experience, again, is through this contract system. There's quests. This isn't to say this is the be-all end-all for any Final Fantasy 1.0 veterans out there like myself. This is not a leave-based system, but it does draw a little bit of inspiration from it. You can get a certain number of contracts per city per day, and the number that you can get actually increases as you go up in level. They describe this as XP on steroids. These are quests on steroids. Something like kill 35 wolves and you're going to get a bunch of experience and you're going to get a bunch of gold for doing so. It is, again, that time lock per city, thus encouraging, you going from city to city, but also then rewarding you for doing so if you want to take your time to do it. Now, another thing is a really cool point that I want to talk about: morphs. If you guys missed it in the last video, morphs give you kind of three forms: your swimming morph, your gliding morph, and your sprinting or your running morph. That means you turn into an animal. But what about the enemies that are aggressive out in the field? Well, it's a great question. You will actually, if you, let's say, go into a pack of wolves that are aggressive and they want to kill you, if you actually are morphed into a wolf form, they'll leave you alone. But if you morph into something that's not a wolf form, they will attack you. So the game respects how you look in the game. And I think that's really freaking cool. Honestly, that in and of itself is just an exciting system, hands down. So I appreciate that. Obviously, when it comes to the morphs and how you unlock it, this is a very smooth transition. I think a lot of people were like, the guy doesn't remember if you can fly upwards. And no, like I honestly believe that, because it makes sense that not necessarily are you paying attention to every little thing. So the questions and things that you would remember, somebody might not, but they do believe that you cannot fly upwards. And it is literally just the, like your gliding and your grappling hook. And the fact that you can switch between these things so quickly, it just makes sense that you could grapple, you could glide, you could grapple, you could glide in a weird Spider-Man-esque kind of fashion. And I'm using the term Spider-Man in my words, not theirs. So we talked about the aggressive enemies. We all asked about guild size, and they do not recall what the maximum guild size limit is. I do think that's been published, and I do think it's a leveling to increase people into the guild. but don't quote me on it. I was looking around for the information just to confirm, but I couldn't find it at the time of this recording. So you guys can sound off in the comments below if you know the answer to that one. Y'all ask a lot about dodge rolls, how do you get out of bad? And they say there is no dodge movement. Again, the combat in and of itself has an auto attack. You can move and use skills. Some skills will root you. And there are also some movement-based skills, and that's kind of where they go into this. There are some actually disengage spells, is their word. Now, I think of this as movement, namely because they played primarily with two-handed staffs and magical-based weapons, as my voice cracks because puberty is finally coming all of this many, many years later. I think I'll grow out a beard. I don't know. You guys let me know how that looks. But in that regards, no dodge rolls, nothing like that, which is interesting, especially when it comes to PvP. Because when it comes to like a true action combat game, movement is going to be the most critical aspect. So it makes sense that that's going to be the case. I would assume that you would think, if you think disengage spell, think of kind of a movement like you would rush in. Maybe there's going to be a movement ability that lets you rush out, and that's what they're talking about with a disengage spell, so to speak. Now, obviously, the subreddit is really frustrated about the concept of auto battle, and so I'd like to spend a little bit more time in this video talking about my perspective on it, because I am a mixed perspective. I'm not saying that if you are mad that this game has an auto battle system that you're wrong, but by far from it. But I'm also in a position where I'm kind of willing to try anything. I'm all for throwing things against the wall and seeing if they stick. Now, maybe you have more experience in games that autoplay themselves. Let me say this. I don't, in everything that was been shared with me and I've seen, doesn't make it feel like an autoplay game. It makes it feel like a game that you can do a lot of prep. You can kind of really customize your settings of what you're looking for, and then you can kind of let it go a little bit. But this is going to be almost like a perfect work from home based game where you check in on it occasionally. And then when you're actively playing it, then you're really doing the real cool things. Where auto battle is, I'm going to go farm small things in a small area where it's generally safe, but I'm going to spend a lot of gold to do so because I think over time, I will successfully be able to farm up more gold in this case. So that is, I think, a kind of a key aspect. Just note that is one aspect. The other aspect of it is, will this make botting easier? And honestly, I think it in a way will, where they target the gathering aspect, because this isn't an auto gather game. This is where you prepare and you go out and fight. I do wonder how PvP will affect it, because it does seem that might be an always on kind of system. So there might be this whole kind of concept where you put yourself in on a fight, somebody murders you, which I know for the PvEers out there who are deathly afraid of PvP, that could be also a no-go for this game as well. But anyhow, this is all currently theoretical. Not that this information isn't true, but that this information, we don't know really what the positive and the negatives are going to be. We can only look to other games to see how they handled it. And it sounds like this game is handling it differently. And the reason why I think that is because people are already botting. They're already doing all this auto stuff. They're doing it illegally. They're never really getting caught. And so it becomes a system of haves and have-nots. And those are systems that I generally can't celebrate. Where, like, take Final Fantasy XIV, for example. The haves have, damage meters. Oh, but we don't like damage meters. The crowd, yells and their fists in the air. Well, they're being used against you. And as many times as people say that certain things aren't happening, they're delusional. Like, there's an absolute ranking system. People are absolutely excluding people based off of the fact that they don't have damage meters. So you end up having a haves and a have-nots, where the haves start to understand the game better and faster and are able to perform overall better and faster than those who don't. So in a way, there's a level of normalization that this could bring in. I'm using, again, the word could because we don't yet know the downstream impacts of this system and its changes overall. I would not assume the worst. In fact, I would just assume a more neutral kind of opinion, I'm going to see how it feels to play. Does this keep me logging in? Does this make me excited to check back in? Because the next evolution, if this system is a success, is the game will learn your AI and generate kind of an AI based off of you. And that could help bring back more sandbox style elements where, generally speaking, you see a lot of these big content creators, you see a lot of the negativity towards MMOs being I have to have a job. I have to play this game like a streamer and never go to work or see my family. Like, who really wants to kind of play those games when they're bringing those tools so that you can, in a way, do it? It's not efficient, but it's available. And that's going to be really interesting to see the downstream impacts of game design and more. So when it comes down to it, one of the things that you'll hear me say repeatedly, and I think this is very important, is that I believe in a marketplace of ideas. I think good ideas we should reward, and bad ideas we should fight back against in terms of our dollars, or, our money and our time. The modern social, economy, the creator economy, if you will, is an economy built off of attention. And so the more things we give attention, both positive and negative, that's why if you really want something to go away, you just ignore it. And that's the hardest thing, unfortunately, for us as humans to do. But back into the idea of economy of ideas and good ideas. For the longest time, I think subscriptions have been positive for the relationship between the player and the devs, but they also have a kind of a hidden cost. Then that hidden cost ends up being that, generally speaking, good ideas were tried in MMOs, but people didn't have the bandwidth of time, money, attention to really give those systems. And so some systems got chalked up as a bad idea, and we haven't seen them really retried in a while. I'm not saying that that is applying to the auto combat here, but I'm saying it is in terms of I'm really willing to give games the benefit of the doubt before I judge them harshly because of it. I'm going to see how it feels in my hands, and having, once I put many, many hours into it, and then I can give you guys some analysis of the downstream effects, what positives, what negatives, what players should know. And that's essentially just what we do here. I'm a software developer. That's how I think. And so I like to break those things down and give you guys those details. The same kind of thing, to kind of bring this into the real world for a second. If you've never heard of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, it's a good organization. They brought drunk driving to the forefront and the attention in our minds. So you're thinking the designated driver program is a good, real example of what I'm talking about here. The hidden cost is more and more people die of alcohol poisoning or get go to the hospital via ambulance, via alcohol poisoning, because unfortunately some people forgot how to drink. It became something that is hidden, and you don't end up having a friend tell you, hey buddy, I think you've had enough. It wasn't the intention of MAD that that's the downstream effect, but that's one example. There's a positive and there's a negative. So not everything is always going to be black and white. There's always room for discussion. There's always room to explore, and so much more. Anyway, guys, I thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, and you feel like it earns it, that like button is a great way of saying thanks. You can always sound off in the comments below. I'm thinking about doing this. I'm going to share this with you guys in this video, and you guys, I would be really interested in your feedback, especially for the legends that are still here listening to these words. Thinking about trying to do a giveaway at 70,000 subscribers, 80, 90, and 100. And in regards to be eligible, you have to be subscribed or at least comment on the video. So be sure to be racking up those comments. I'm going to be dropping hearts on those because you will eventually get a heart badge that I can see. That badge means that, yes, you're a part of this community, and I want to make sure that if I end up doing these kind of bigger giveaways, I would like it to be, I don't know if I have the money yet, I have to prove it with a wife, for 100,000 subscribers here on the channel to do a PS5 giveaway, or an Xbox Series X, whatever system you would prefer more. That's something I would like to build up to as a big celebration, because I've always been looking at that 100K as just a metric of like, wouldn't that be really freaking cool? And if you guys want to help me along and get there, share the videos out, letting your friends know. And yeah, the idea is that I'll be liking comments, and thus you'll get that badge, and anybody who has that badge would be eligible. So that way somebody random doesn't just come up on the 100K video and be like, yo, and then they win. I'd rather give it to you guys, or one of you guys. I'm not made of money. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for your time and your attention. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But until then, take care.